McArthur Country Club, Orange Beach, Alabama. The large yacht floated along the surface of the sea, a very good distance from the shore. The rich, the influential, that was the kind of people who boarded this ship. As an added measure of safety, since the attacks on the world by possibly diseased dinosaurs, the Navy had been called in to survey the party boat. Soldiers watched from their little boats with their binoculars. Laughter and drinking came from the yacht. Senator Sanders, a man in his 70s and senator of Alabama, was there to organize the celebration. This had made sense since he was a major funder of the country club. This party was to ensure the safety of the people of his hometown, since their home was one of the only places in the world that weren't attacked by this plague of crazed animals. Especially now, since they were celebrating the 20th anniversary of the founding of their country club. One of his waiters walked up to him as he presided over the celebration. Everything looks all good, sir. Excellent, Sanders replied. Gather everyone's attention, Daniels. It's about time for the speech. Yes, sir, Daniels nodded. Two of the Marines sat on the front deck of their boat as they kept a visual over the party yacht. It was their duty to ensure that nothing would happen to them that night. Aside from the lights on the yacht, the only light out was a moon, casting its white, brilliant luminescence on the water and filling their eyes. All the other Navy boats just floated in place with their anchors holding them down. They looked just like rubber ducks as they floated in the bathtub. One of their ships was floating a bit closer to them to get a better look. Bobbing up and down with the waves, it was a small boat, so it could fit less people on it. Anything yet? One of them asked. Nothing, the other sighed. I really don't see why we gotta be guarding this thing this time of night. I don't think any of those dinos can swim. Well, firstly, because the general said to, came the reply of the first soldier. Didn't you hear about what happened to McCoy? Secondly, they say something's been attacking ferry boats on the Mississippi. If it's happening there, who says they won't happen here? All right, point taken, the second sighed. The two of them looked back at the party yacht and watched intently. But there was something wrong. The smaller Navy boat wasn't visible anymore. It wasn't that far away from them, so whatever happened to it couldn't have just gone unnoticed like that. They looked all around to see if they could find it. It probably went around to the other side. They tried to even find any of the passengers even. They might have even fallen off. But as hard as they looked, they saw nothing of the sort. Then with a startling flash, something jumped out of the water and into the boat. A tuna! And it was followed by another. Then another, and another. Soon enough, there was a whole school jumping into their boat. The soldiers and the rest of the crew began to toss some of the fish back. But there came even more by the dozens. Try as they might, they could not keep the deck clear of fish. The first mate looked over the dock as he threw one back. He expected to see more fish about to jump up and was ready to bat them away. But he saw something different. Something not small. Something big was in the water. Something very, very big. It must have been the thing that was scaring the fish so much. They were jumping to get away from it. And whatever this thing was, it was heading toward the yacht. Senator Sanders stood on his podium before his guests as he tested his microphone. The loud sound it made got everyone's attention as they turned their heads towards him. Once he was sure of their attendance, he then started his speech. Friends, neighbors, I suppose that you all are well aware of the uncertain times that have befallen our nation. I've come to understand that you yourselves have come to fear that it will happen here as well. And while I can honestly say that I too have my fears, it is with great honor that I announce that our worries are to be put to rest. Less than a week ago, it has been confirmed that Dr. Ian Malcolm, famous chaotician and author of works such as Life Finds a Way, has made plans to build an electrified fence that stretches around every city in the world. So now we can all rest easy, go about our lives, and no longer live in fear of our own demises. Tonight, let us raise our glasses and toast to anew. Just before the toast could be given, before the hears could be said, the ship jerked in a sudden, violent motion. Something had just rammed the hull very hard. Below deck they could hear the rushing of water like a fountain. One of the staff members looked and saw that the walls of the lower deck had been penetrated. Water was pouring in from the ocean inside, in small rivers, filling it up rather swiftly. And then came another fierce strike against the other side. This nearly knocked everyone off their feet as they kept themselves standing. The staff looked again and saw that this time there was something that briefly poked through the side of the impact. He wasn't entirely sure, but they looked like teeth. Big teeth. The screaming and clamoring was so loud that no one could hear the calls of warning from the men on the Navy boat not too far away. They had seen what was coming towards them, apparently, and waving their arms and yelling loudly. But as loud as they yelled, it was no use. Sanders struggled to keep his guests calm as they rushed everywhere, trying to find a way off the sinking ship. When he looked off to the side, that was the first that had gotten hit. He saw the idea was one of pure suicide. It was a tremendous tail, rising from the water like a breaching whale. It raised high into the air and smacked down upon the surface, splashing every patron on deck. And then came the head of the creature. Its jaw looked like that of a crocodile, long and straight. Its eyes were a pure white, making it hard to tell where the dinosaur was looking. It let out a loud, terrifying roar as it raised its large claws onto the side of the hull. It pushed down as its jaws snapped around at everything on deck. The guests hurriedly jumped from the boat as the dinosaur began to wreck through it. Sanders found himself thrown into the captain's lounge as the dinosaur began to tear the ship apart. He watched the water rise around him as the behemoth slashed and tore everything it saw. The yacht was sinking fast. Water in here, dinosaur out there. My chances were not looking too good at this point. But there had to be some way out of here. You could see the sail running along the backside of the dinosaur next to the whole ship. He heard its foot clawing and raking against the hull outside as it snarled and slashed. He knew it was holding onto the ship now like a leopard held onto a tree limb. However, its eyes seemed to confirm that it was one of the infected ones. He struggled out from under an overturned table and scrambled to an emergency exit. He saw the mighty tail swishing around underwater, but he knew it was more focused on wrecking the yacht. As he dove underwater, he saw the legs of the patrons swimming towards the shore, which was not that far away, thank God. But now, he saw that they were wishing they weren't there. Though not as big as the one in the water, another dinosaur just devoured one of the members of the club. Its skin was a lime green as it stood at 5 meters tall. Atop the head, right above the eyes, ran a line of red scales. The green dinosaur was joined by the Carnotaurus and the Ceratosaurus from the news reports. They snatched up whatever people they could and devoured them. The others ran towards the city at the edge of the beach, but the dinosaurs were not far behind. With horror, Sanders watched as the ceratosaur turned around and seemed to have spotted him. He tried running the opposite direction, but found himself being lifted off the ground by something hard and scaly. The creature's foot, landing face first into the sand, the cries of the patrons were filling his ears, along with the sand, along with the crunching of bones of those unlucky to have been caught by them. Once he got to his feet, he saw the red face of the ceratosaur staring down at him with those lifeless eyes. And as he heard something rising from the water behind him, he knew the giant sailback dinosaur was approaching as well. Its loud, chilling roar erupted along the shoreline. He felt the ground shake with its footsteps, However, as close as the aquatic dinosaur sounded, the ceratosaur didn't seem to mind it. It seemed more focused on Sanders. Just before it lunged towards him to devour him, something swiftly flew through the air and struck it in the face. It was a bazooka shell. Exploding on impact, the dinosaur didn't seem injured by it, only shaken up. Anders looked and saw an arsenal of soldiers on the beach shooting bazookas at the dinosaurs. However, these soldiers were not in the Navy. These men wore suits of green. The dinosaurs bellowed in anger as they were blasted non-fatally by the men's bazookas. The large green dinosaur began to ram some of them away with its large head. The colonel turned to its larger green companion and roughly nipped at its side. This got its attention from the men, as if it had been snapped back to reality. The sailback dinosaur turned its head towards the edge of the beach, where it saw a dark shape running with them. It began to depart from all the chaos and screaming humans. Its comrades followed suit, as if they had been called away by the same thing their bigger comrade had been seeing. Once the dinosaurs were gone, he took a look at the soldiers that had driven them away. The insignias on their suits read the word Biosyn. One of the men walked towards him. When he was but a few feet away from him, he turned and walked in front of the surviving participants. He then took off his helmet, revealing himself to be a man with short, brown hair. "Attention, Orange Beach," he said aloud to them. "Your fear shall now be put to rest. From now on, the efforts of our company will work to protect the world from these infected creatures. We will give protection, light, and hope to this new world, this Jurassic world. All you must do now is forward all future funding towards Pericol Labs. Together, we will ensure that any more loss of life will be avoided. Tonight is the beginning of a new world. A safe world. A world that is protected by people who work for your best interests. Biosyn." Once his speech had finished, the man was met with loud applause. Dogson grinned as he met with the people's approval. Now the plan was in place. Just like Wu said.